Today we are going to look at joy, how to grab back the joy that you lost. Let's see what our teacher is saying. He's quoting Ephesians chapter 3. For this reason I bow my knees before the Father, that according to the riches of his glory he may grant you to be strengthened with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may have strength to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth, and to know the love of Christ. And he says that many Christians experience spiritual depression because they stop growing after conversion. Dr. Lloyd-Jones observed that some believers remain content with initial experiences of forgiveness without pressing into the fullness of God described by Paul. The Apostles' prayer reveals that salvation is just the beginning. Beyond forgiveness lies an immense spiritual landscape to explore, the breadth and length and height and depth of Christ's love. Many Christians live as spiritual infants when God intends them to grow into maturity. He identified a particular cause of depression, failing to realize what we are meant to be, what's available to us, and what God intends for us. We settle for spiritual subsistence when God offers abundance. Paul prays that believers would be strengthened with power through his Spirit in our inner being. This is not merely about moral improvement, but about spiritual, supernatural empowerment. The same divine energy that raised Christ from the dead is working in us. The result of this is that Christ may dwell in our hearts through faith. The Greek word implies permanent residence, not temporary visitation. Christ doesn't want to be an occasional guest in our lives, but a permanent inhabitant. And this indwelling leads to be rooted and grounded in love, a botanical and architectural metaphor suggesting both vibrant growth and unshakable stability. And then from this position, we can begin to comprehend dimensions of love from Christ that surpasses knowledge, not just intellectually, but experimentally. Today, if you are spiritually depressed, ask whether you've settled for less than what God intends. Have you confused the starting line for the finish one? The same grace that saved you wants to transform you into the fullness of Christ. Your spiritual depression may be an invitation to deeper dimensions of faith. And then, what shall we say? Asked Paul. Are we to continue in sin that grace may abound? By no means. Dr. Lloyd-Jones identified a paradoxical form of spiritual depression that arises from misunderstanding grace. Some believers feel perpetually defeated by sin because they have not grasped what happens to them at conversion. Paul addresses a distortion of grace that still plagues the church today, the idea that God's forgiveness gives license to sin. His response is emphatic: by no means. The apostle does not merely offer a practical objection, but a theological impossibility. How can we, who died to sin, still live in it? Lloyd-Jones emphasizes that this is not merely aspirational language, but a statement of spiritual reality. When Christ died, believers died with him. And this death to sin is not something that Christians accomplished through efforts, but something they receive through their union with Christ. Many Christians experience depression because they approach sin management backward. They try to become dead to sin through personal effort, rather than recognizing they are already dead to sin through Christ's work. They focus on their continuing struggles rather than their new identity. This misunderstanding leads to a cycle of defeat. They sin, feel guilty, resolve to do better, fail again, and sink deeper into depression. Their fundamental problem is fighting a battle from the wrong position, as slaves trying to become free rather than as free people resisting re-enslavement. Paul's solution begins with understanding. Consider yourself dead to sin and alive in God in Christ. Before changing behavior, we must embrace our new identity. We don't fight for victory, we fight from victory already secured. Today, if you are depressed by ongoing struggles with sin, examine whether you have fully grasped your death to sin's power. Your individual sins do not define your spiritual state. Your union with Christ does. You are not a sinner trying to become holy, but a holy person who sometimes sins. This perspective does not minimize sin's seriousness, but it maximizes Christ's accomplishment. By faith, reckon yourself dead to sin's dominion, even while fighting its influence. Your position in Christ, not your performance for Christ, defines your spiritual reality.